Efforts for Elijah continue today, and they have moved south of Two Rivers to Manitowoc, just a block away from the courthouse. Our team coverage continues with Samantha Cavalli with the latest on search efforts. Samantha.
Right, Jeff. Today's search continued in Manitowoc, and that was set up by Elijah's entire family, just looking for some kind of clues or answers to his disappearance. One of the places that they did end up looking in was Shooty Park, going in through woods, just trying to find any clues in order to find Elijah. Now, people first met up here at the Mikado Theater around 1:30 p.m., where the business opened its doors to searchers for shelter. Now, one of those people first in the door was Annie Sear of Two Rivers. She tells us in the community there has been a lot of fear and anxiety over Elijah's disappearance. She says terrible things like this shows what a tight-knit community Two Rivers is, and would hope if her children went missing, the community would come together the same way.
What if it was my daughter or my son? I would want everybody. And it doesn't matter what the story is. It doesn't matter who did what. It matters that there are people that love him and they need some kind of answer.
Now, while the public continues its search, the FBI is continuing their search over at Hickory Meadows landfill over in Calumet County, just trying to search for any kind of clues or anything that could link to Elijah's disappearance to try and bring him home safely. Reporting in Manitowoc, Samantha Cavalli, Action 2 News.